Do you like your new job? The pilot asked me. To be honest, I loved my job at the laboratories, I replied. But it is nice to finally sit in the spaceships I've spent so long working on. My name is Robert Dykman. I am a scientist. By the time I turned 30, I had designed and tested spaceships on 3 different planets of our galaxy. This was the first time I actually worked as a co-pilot on a mission. Admittedly, I was a little nervous, but I was grateful to be part of one of the most exciting types of jobs. I was on an exploratory ship with Captain Ramon Bravo. The ship was one of our best models. Practical, incredibly fast, surprisingly resourceful for its size. And the captain, well, it was an honor to work with him. Plus, he adored his job. Actually going out and exploring the universe around us is an underappreciated task nowadays, he told me with a nostalgic tone. Well, I shyly added, most things we'll see were already noticed by our satellites, Captain. He shook his head with amusement and toyed a little with the controllers in front of us. Satellites can't do everything. They only notice the things that they are programmed to notice, right? Wouldn't you like to be surprised? His last word was accentuated by a frown on his face and a red light starting to blink on our panels. Are you trying to scare me? I chuckled. I had designed ships like this one. I knew how scary a red light could be. It's not me. Ramon shook his head. Take a look. Our radar just stopped working. Radars can't stop working, I nervously retorted. That would leave us stranded in the middle of nowhere. Hopeless and helpless, and with only a few hours to... Robert. The captain said my name firmly to shake me down from my panic. Focus. You know what you're doing. Look, the radars appear to be alright, but they just refuse to show what's ahead of us. I leaned forward to take a closer look, and he was right. The ship's radar were completely functional, showing everything around us, except what was way ahead. It looked like a clear circle with the top just sliced off. There was nothing there. Maybe it's clashing with the satellite's signal, Ramon wondered. But I shook my head. No, look, we left the last satellites behind a while ago. This means we're really in unexplored territory. And the territory apparently doesn't want to be explored, Ramon whispered. Carefully, he made our ship move forward slowly, getting closer and closer to the source of the mysterious effect on our radar. But we couldn't see anything. Movement, warmth, radio signals, depths. All our signals got cut off on that spot. It wasn't even blurry or a spot in the radars. It was a clean line slashing through our screens. It was a wall. A wall? I mumbled and repeated myself so my partner could hear me. A wall. It's like there's a wall blocking our path. Ramon laughed. It's space, Robert, he said. But I noticed the tension on his brow. There can't be walls. I don't see anything blocking. I don't see anything there. It's space as I've always seen it. Could it be a new type of matter? Something we can't notice. I wondered why I frantically tinkered with our controllers, trying to get as much information as possible. I can't tell how far this barrier goes or how long it is. I can't figure out anything about it. There's nothing there, the captain insisted. There can't be. You said it yourself. Our satellites have seen it all. Not all. Not this far, I replied. Bullshit, he barked. What are you suggesting? That this is the end of the universe? Come on, he laughed bitterly. I could tell that the uncertainty and lack of explanation were driving him a little mad. He started moving the ship again, a little faster, a little less carefully, and his movements were jerky and less precise. Ramon, Captain, please calm down. I tried to soothe him and slow down the ship, but it was useless. We reached the barrier and we crashed. Lightly thanks to me pulling the brakes and the captain's quick reflexes despite his state of mind. But the fact remains, we had just crashed against an invisible wall. Our eyes weren't lying. After the front of our ship touched the invisible barrier, What we were seeing was an endless space blinked and blurred for a couple of seconds before steadying again. It wasn't space at all. It seemed to be some sort of projection, an image put over a physical obstacle on our path. Incredible, I said, astonished. Impossible, the captain cried out. Our ship took the impact well. Despite our lights blinking and the alarms going off, nothing appeared damaged. Well, besides our conception of the universe. There was a long, intense pause where we both got lost in our troubled thoughts. But finally, the captain asked me, "Do you think... if this was a secret, they wouldn't have sent us both here, right?" I perfectly understood his point. No. I shook my head. I have a feeling we are the only two people aware of the existence of this wall. I started breathing heavily. I was panicking again, but this time the captain made no effort to stop me from rapidly darkening my thoughts. I also have a feeling that this wall was fabricated. It is not a natural presence. Someone or something outside of all norms of regulations created this. I know that you and I are completely alone. The nearest satellites might catch a distress signal, but it'll be too long before any sort of rescue could find us. We have absolutely no way of knowing what this wall is, why it's here, what's on the other side, and who or what put it there. My heart was beating out of my chest. My hands were shaking. I was sweating. I felt on the verge of a precipice. This was worse than a black hole. Still, Ramon caught the way I was holding something back. "But," he tentatively prompted me, "but I'm dying to figure out all those answers," I whispered. At first, he looked horrified by the mere suggestion. I couldn't blame him. I looked like I was seconds away from fainting. But I was a scientist that had literally just crashed against an impossible obstacle. The only thing on my mind was this invisible wall. Countless hypotheses, and a desperate need to get to the other side of this problem. Metaphorically, and quite literally too. The captain started moving the ship backward and away from the wall. "You are mad," he told me. "You have absolutely lost your mind. We are lost alone in space, facing something unreasonable, impossible, unimaginable. And you want..." He trailed off, thought about it for a second, and prepared the attack systems of the ship. "Do you want to try something?" His question definitely intrigued me. We barely thought twice about it. In a matter of seconds, we shot 3 quick blasts at the barrier. Once again, the image of the endless space blinked, ruining the illusion before restoring itself. I heard the captain groan in frustrations before we started shooting again. Our projectiles did little to no damage to the wall. But after a minute of this, the captain stopped so we could see the results. After the image steadied again, it wasn't the same. There were gray spots all over, like a ruined screen, some cracks here and there. The illusion was over. The wall wasn't invisible anymore. It was obvious. But the most obvious part, the thing that made both of us gasp in terror, were the words. "Desist!" The words appeared in giant red letters over the surface of the wall. They were so big the red light covered our entire ship. The letters were there for a second at most, but still, it was beyond ominous and it took our breath away. This was enough to make me lose my mind. The repercussions of that combination of letters was unmeasurable. This unthinkable wall in the middle of nowhere had just communicated with us. In English, signaling not only intelligent life behind it, but creators' knowledge of who and what we were. I couldn't resist. I took over the controls, fired up the ship's engines, and drove it forward, as fast as it could go in that short distance. This time, the crash against the wall made our entire cabin shake. The lights flickered. The alarm started to ring loudly. Warning lights lit up all over the controls. Damage was done to our ship, but to the wall as well. There was a noticeable dent on the surface that made me grin. "Are you crazy?" Ramon asked me when he recovered from the shock. "You could have killed us. This thing could explode or attack us." "Or what else?" I asked him. My partner frowned. or send another message, or open up, eat us, make us disappear, or not, he mumbled. His expression grew thoughtful, and when he looked me in the eyes, I noticed they were sparkling with curiosity. Or something could come out. I whispered back at him. Someone, people, monsters, hallucinations, planets, aliens, anything at all. The captain looked disturbed, and I had never been as scared or as excited as I was at that moment. We couldn't keep talking though. The dent I had caused on the wall started to tremble, and then one by one, little pieces of the wall started to fall off. They floated away in space slowly, weightless. Ramon and I watched marveled as the barrier broke down in front of us. We couldn't utter a word. By the time fear started to overpower all of our other feelings, it was way too late. At first, it looked like beyond the wall there was only empty space with stars in the distance. But the stars started to blink, and multiply, and move. And those were the eyes watching us. Dozens, hundreds of them. Bright as stars, but soulless and undoubtedly not human. We couldn't see anything else. Planets, other constructions. One more word. There was nothing but those unblinking eyes staring at us from every angle. As the hole on the barrier continued to grow, the eyes started to move away, as if opening space for us. The captain glanced at me, and almost imperceptibly, I shook my head. It took us way too long, but we had finally regained what had remained of our senses and reason. There are limits you aren't meant to cross, even in the endless expanse of outer space. Ramon moved slowly, placed his hands on the controllers, and tried to move the ship backward. The damaged engines protested, and warning signs lit up on our entire cabin, but the ship moved, for a moment at least. Because a second later, everything stopped, and then the ship started moving forward. Ramon scrambled to get the controls to do as he demanded, and from the co-pilot seat, I imitated his movements desperately. The engines roared, but they were helpless. The ship wasn't moving on its own accord. We were being dragged forward. An invisible force was attracting our entire ship, closer and closer to the wall, until we were crossing it. We had no idea what we were entering. We knew nothing but its deep darkness and fortress we had just ruined. When our ship was fully on the other side of the wall, we stared at the screen showing us the space behind us, and we watched with tears in our eyes the way the wall rebuilt itself, locking us inside. The last thing I remember is an endless void speckled with sparks of light that blink as they study my every movement. I come back to myself with a gasp. As I struggle to get my labored breathing under control, I take a look at my surroundings and review the facts. Everything around me is dark, except for a few lights still blinking on the control panel in front of me. I'm still strapped to my seat. Beside me, there's Captain Ramon Bravo, still passed out. My name is Robert Dykeman, and we made a terrible, terrible mistake. We were on an exploratory mission in space, and when we found the end of the satellite signal, we came across an unexpected barrier, a sort of invisible wall built in the middle of space. Our curiosity made us crash our ship against this wall, until we were dragged to the other side against our will. And then, my head starts to hurt and I close my eyes tightly. But when I open them again, I immediately scream. There, on the glass in front of me, there's a hand. Just a human hand, I think. Completely out of place. Completely impossible. Just resting there on the glass outside of our ship. I scream, and I scream until my throat feels like it's going to split wide open. And then I wake up. Again? Was that a dream? My mind is a scrambled mess. But if dreaming or not, I was so scared by a simple human hand out of place. What I'm seeing now is so unexpected that I'm stunned into complete silence. I'm afraid my brain is unable to process it. I'm scared this experience will give me a heart attack. But then I feel hands on my shoulders and a voice asking me, Robert, are you okay? Hey, breathe, please. I'm here with you. It's Ramon, my partner in this mission. He's wide awake now. His eyes go back and forth between my terror-stricken expression and the sight that's right outside our ship. I can't believe it. I can't understand. I mumble. All I can do is try to avoid looking for sense, logic, and reason. I have to accept what I'm seeing at face value for now. The thing is, out there, what we see outside our ship is just nature. It looks as if we had just dropped down in the middle of the most inconspicuous forest imaginable. It's so pretty and nearly perfect. It's as if it had come alive from a picture book for kids. But at the same time, it's so unremarkable that I can think of 100 places like this one just in one of the planets I've been to before. It feels unfamiliar, and like I've been camping there a dozen times before. The feeling is unreal and brings goosebumps to my skin. What happened? I asked Ramon, though I already had a feeling he has to be as clueless as I am. Well, he says, it looks like something went wrong during takeoff, and instead of leaving our planet, we only crashed down in the middle of some forest. His words immediately make me tense and I nearly jump off my seat. I can feel my heart accelerating. Feels on the edge of a precipice. Did I go mad? Was all of this a hallucination? The pure terror in my face must have alarmed my partner, because he puts a comforting hand on my shoulder and then he says, But that would be impossible, right? And you remember what happened. Please tell me you remember what happens. Of course I do, I reply. The wall, the entrance, the eyes. Look! Ramon turns his head away from me to look through the front glass of the ship. There, in the shadows between the trees and the darkness of the bushes, there are those brilliant little eyes like stars, blinking and staring directly at us. Fascinating, Ramon mumbles. Do you think we should go head out and explore further? Robert, are you okay? When he turned toward me again, my friend noticed my state of distress. Seeing those eyes in the dark corners of the forest awoke a powerful memory I desperately tried to block or overcome through the years. I'm staring at the eerily familiar forest, and I remember being a lonesome kid running away from bullies during camp and getting lost in the forest. I see those unnatural eyes, staring at us, vulnerable in our broken down ship. And I remember the cold of the night, the hunger, the fear, and the glowing eyes of wild beast. Then, I feel the eyes getting closer and closer as if they could read my mind. We're supposed to be lost in space, miles away from the forest and pain. But still, my whole body aches with the phantom pain of feral animals biting through my flesh when I was only just a kid. Get me out of here! I yell. My brain distantly registers Ramon's worry and fear at my outburst, but I don't care. Get me out of here! Get me out of here! I can't do this again. I can't! The animals will eat me! They still want me! I know it! I've been here before. I see it in my nightmares and now I'm back! Please, God, just get me away from here! My desperate cries must have unsettled my partner badly. But they work. Okay, calm down, Robert, please. He repeats again and again, trying to soothe me down while my body thrashes around on my seat and tears stream down my eyes. Ramon fights against the controls of the ship and the agonizing engines, but he gets the ship to start up. Calm down, Robert, please. Try to get a grasp of your mind. This is not the forest from your childhood. You're safe. This is different. This is impossible. The ship starts to move, but as we should have maybe expected at this point, it doesn't happen as it should. We don't move forward. We don't move upwards. Instead, our ship starts moving in reverse, something it shouldn't be able to do. We are being dragged backwards, Away from the trees. Away from the glowing eyes. Faster and faster. We're falling. Put on your seatbelt. Ramon yells at me as he prepares himself on his own seat. There's a brief moment of pure silence, and it feels like we're back in space, completely suspended without gravity. And then, the splash. We've fallen onto a body of water, and we're sinking, quickly, unstoppably. In a matter of seconds, we're below the surface. And in a minute, we'll start losing sight of the light. I'm terrified out of my mind. Obviously. I've barely recovered from that intense feeling of being back at the spot where I experienced my most intense childhood trauma. And we're thrown here. The memory strikes me all at once. A terrible experience I didn't live myself, but I heard coming from the lips and the tears of the man sitting beside me. Ramon starts screaming before I figure out what to do. No, not this. Anything but this. Damn it. He starts furiously slamming his hands on the control panel in front of him. He hits the buttons with desperation, and he jerks the controllers one way and another, doing anything and everything he can to get out of this situation. But it's hopeless. Ramon, please, listen to me. Please, listen to me. We have to get out of here, I tell him. I try to reason with him, but there's no point. Even if he wasn't struggling against the suffocating grip of trauma, I have a feeling we still wouldn't be able to leave this sinking ship and swim to the surface in time. We're sinking so fast. It's getting so dark and so cold I can't stop shivering. Don't you get it? Ramon yells at me. I've been here before. I was only 6 years old and I was convinced I was going to die. I remember it now. It's just like this. I'm so cold. And there's so much pressure around me. And I'm sinking. Robert. I try to swim, but something's dragging me down. I want to scream for help. Scream for my parents. But that would kill me. As if I wasn't already dead. And I'm dying again. The pure desperation in his voice makes tears fall from my eyes. And my body shakes. I can picture the terror of a little boy drowning during his first visit to a lake so clearly. And I ache for him. But now we're living his worst nightmare again. And I can't shake him out of it long enough for us to escape. You're not alone now, Ramon. You didn't die then, and you're not going to die now. I tell him at the same time I wrap my arms around him. I try to be as gentle as well as reassuring. But the truth is, I don't think we're gonna make it out of this alive. Doom is closer than ever. This spaceship wasn't made to dive in the water. It's just a matter of time before the systems malfunction. A short circuit starts a fire, walls cave, water floods in. Anything could kill us now. Lack of oxygen that will dry our lungs up painfully. A fire or an explosion that will burn us alive bit by bit or all at once. Maybe the structure of the ship will crumble down around us, crushing our bodies to dust. Perhaps the water will get in and my friend's greatest nightmare will come true. The water will fill every dark corner of this room just like our lungs. And as the lights go off in every light bulb, so will die the light in our eyes. Eyes? Ramon whispered. I don't remember eyes before. He lifts his head from my shoulder and I look at the glass in front of us as well. We pull back from our embrace and stare at the wide expanse of water surrounding us. It's not at all dark anymore. There are those eyes again. Dozens, maybe hundreds of them. They're showing up all around us. They shine so brightly. They blink slowly. They float on the darkness and stare directly at us. Suddenly, it's harder to breathe. I'm starting to shake. I feel all my muscles tense up. I'm so cold. I have goosebumps, and I'm once again convinced we're going to die. Are we dead already? I wonder. There's a horrified scream stuck in my throat, but I don't manage to speak a word. The eyes are getting brighter and brighter, bigger and bigger. I'm scared they are going to swallow us alive. Take us into their light and eat our souls here in this endless and incomprehensible darkness we're in. Suddenly, for a brief second, all the eyes close, and we are consumed by darkness once more. But when they open again, the light is blinding. It's so strong. It's an all-encompassing light and it burns. Ramon and I scream and try our best to shield our eyes. We squirm and fall to our knees as we continue to scream until I feel my eyelids getting really heavy. I succumbed to unconsciousness as darkness engulfed my vision. When I regained consciousness again, I'm more confused than I've ever been. There are so many sounds surrounding me. I can hear subtle voices. There's a pressure over my face. I try to move, but I'm somehow restrained. Finally, I managed to open my eyes. The surprise could have killed me. But after so many shocks in the last hour, I think my brain just couldn't afford to be immediately started. No. This time the fear starts somewhere at the back of my head like a feeble candlelight. Soon, it would grow into a massive forest fire that would take over my every thought. But first... Hey, you're awake! A stranger tells me as they look down on me. I blink, scared, and look around me, looking for something that makes sense. They're pushing me forward on a gurney. There's a mask giving me oxygen. Blinking lights alert me of the presence of an ambulance. There's a big commotion all around me, and a few feet away, Ramon is in the exact same position as I am. Our ship is already far away from me. It's not in a forest. It's not in sinking water. It's not even floating in space. The ship is stationed in a professional and kind of familiar station. It's attached to a large mechanism like claws holding it firmly. It reminds me of the labs where I trained for this mission, the space simulators. The confirmation that the forest, as well as the water, had been a simulation makes me feel sick. Apologies for making you go through all that, the person, whom I assume to be a paramedic, tells me, but I turn my head to the side to avoid looking at them. I can't bear it. It's an automatic defense mechanism, they tell me. A little peek into your subconscious with a scan, fabricating an illusion of a significant scene from your past. Well, it proves to us that you're humans. It's just a little precaution, you know? Aliens have been knocking on our walls for millennia. But, you're one of us, right? You might just be a little sick, aren't you? I'm just one of them, aren't I? Ramon and I just got a little lost. We're just a little sick, aren't we? Except, when they get me inside of the ambulance, they hook me up to a different machine I've never seen before. And a sour smell immediately invades my senses. I don't know if it's poison or if it's anesthesia. I don't know if this is a different race or a different dimension. All I know is that before I lose all consciousness, I finally focus on the face of the nurse talking to me. And the last thing I see in her eyes, her body and face are that of a completely normal and ordinary woman. But her eyes, glowing eyes like little stars that observe me and let me know for sure that whatever this is, this isn't my home.